Hello, welcome back. So today I want to take a few minutes and talk about some novels that I want to reread in 2026, the coming year, or maybe by the time you see this, it will already be 2026. So this is, what day is this? This is the 28th of December. There are 6 books here that I want to reread. None of them are particularly heavy reads, maybe one. In fact, several of them are light reads, and I'm not wanting to reread these for their literary value or anything of that nature. I just want to go back to them and see if they are as good as I remember them. In one case, well, I'll get to that when I get to it, but here we go. So the first book is one I've talked about several times. It is my favorite Alistair MacLean novel. It is Night Without End. And this is my favorite Alistair MacLean novel, which is saying something because Alistair MacLean is one of my favorite authors. This is about a DC-3 that crashes in Greenland. I believe it's Greenland. So it is almost always night at this time of year. It is winter. There's no reason for this DC-3 to be there. It crashes near a weather station where there are 2 or 3 guys, and they spend all winter in this little tiny hut with their meteorological instruments. And so they have to help these people in this plane. There are a few people who didn't make it through the crash, and the main character and a couple of the other guys at this weather station go into the plane, and they realize that there has been foul play. Several of the pilots have been shot, and this is not an accident, and so they know that they are trapped with at least one murderer in these survivors. And it is about the main character trying to figure out who did it and getting these survivors back to a town. I want to say this is in Greenland. It may have been in Iceland, but I'm pretty sure it is in Greenland. And I thought this was really, really well done. Alistair MacLean really, really understood cold and how cold affects the human body and how these sort of strenuous activities affect the human body in the cold. And he had been a torpedo officer on a destroyer during World War II, doing the run from Reykjavik in Iceland into Archangel in Russia, so through the North Sea, which is extremely cold and dark and deadly and prone to bad weather. So he spent a lot of time outside in the cold, dressed well, but probably not well enough, with sea spray all around him. So he very well understood the cold, and it really does show in his books, most of them. His last book that I read was called Athabasca. And towards that point, he was nearing the end of his life. He was very sick, and it was, in my memory, it is not a tenth as good as Night Without End. So I really want to go back to this. The next book is sort of I guess you might think of it as just a throwaway book, but it's one that I really enjoyed, and I've been wanting to return to it for some time now. It is the first all-original novel based on the best-selling video game Resident Evil Caliban Cove by S.D. Perry. So S.D. Perry wrote several of these Resident Evil novels. She's written Alien novels, and based on the Alien movies and the comic books. They were based on the Alien comics. Her dad was Steve Perry, the science fiction author, who also wrote Aliens novels and that sort of thing. And I really like the way that she writes. I would love to read more of her books. I just haven't found any more recently. And I remember this being really good. I really enjoyed this. I liked the Resident Evil games. I never got to play the ones from the 90s and early 2000s. I've always wanted to. I did play like an arcade game, but that's quite different. So I just remember this being a fun read where I think they are stars, and so they're like this team that goes in and investigates what's going on, and they're working always against the Umbrella Corporation, which is creating, these genetic it's hard to explain off the top of my head what they are, but they modify things genetically, and then that gets out of hand, and so you have like zombies and all these different kinds of creatures. And in this one, they are sort of outlaws for some reason, because everybody thinks of Umbrella as being this good corporation that does all these things for people, and so the stars have become outlaws, and they have to go to a secret facility, which is the way these always go, and take care of the threat there. And I don't know, I just really remember enjoying this, and I enjoyed it more than the other early Resident Evil novels that I have read. And I'm always on the lookout for these, but I have not found any of these in 2 years at least. I think this was actually the first one that I found, and then I found a couple more. And I think there are 2 or 3 more of these that I don't have. And then, of course, later they had like the novelizations of the movies. I haven't read any of the movie novelizations, but I would love to find more of these. I haven't seen any of them anywhere. The next one is very short. It is by Nicholson Baker, who wrote one of my favorite short stories ever, which I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it is about a man who goes to a farming community to research old farm equipment at this museum, because he's writing a book on old farm equipment, like a very academic book, and he stays with this farming couple. And he opens a drawer in his bedroom, and it's filled with potatoes, like old dried up potatoes that look like heads. And I wish I could remember the name of that. I will put it right here. I'll look that up because it's one of my favorite stories. And I don't know how much I want to give away here, but it turns out the old farming couple and these potatoes are up to something evil and devious, and he is at the center of their plans. And I just really like that story. But it is The Mezzanine. And The Mezzanine is about a young man. I think he's in his late 20s or maybe his early 30s. He is at work, and this is all about him going from, he works on an upper level. There's a mezzanine in this building. I can't remember if he works in like a shopping mall or just like a big office building, but there are like stores on the lower level. And the mezzanine connects to the lower level with an escalator. And this is all about his trip from his office down the escalator to get lunch, his way back up the escalator, back to work, and all the thoughts that he has between going to get lunch and going back to the office. And it's really good. It's only 130 pages long. I really enjoyed this. I really like the insights that he has, and this sort of coming to realize that he is not the man that he wanted to be, but he is nonetheless a man, and he is living his own life, and his thoughts on growing up, on like all kinds of weird things, like how to tie your shoes, how to put on your deodorant after you've already got your shirt on, raisin toast, just all these little thoughts that you might have on your given day. And, oh, there's Nicholson Baker. I'd imagine that's probably from the early 80s. And, yeah, I really want to reread this. The next book is The Killer Angels, which is about the Battle of Gettysburg during the American Civil War. And Michael Shaara is the father of Jeff Shaara. And I remember Jeff Shaara saying that his father would always take him to these different battlefields from the Civil War. And his father was obsessed with like the Civil War and baseball. So he also wrote a book about baseball. What is it called? Will it say? For Love of the Game, which I think was made into a movie, right? I haven't seen it. I'm pretty sure that's a movie though. This is really good. So you might go from like a soldier to a general. Some of the characters in this, for instance, are Robert E. Lee, General Longstreet, Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain, of course, and his brother. This is a really good book. I remember this being a really good book. I really like the miniseries that was based on this book. It's called Gettysburg, and it has all kinds of actors in it. A very good miniseries. And that spurred me on to want to read this book because I first saw that when I was in 8th grade. For some reason, I didn't turn in some kind of field trip permission, so I had to stay at school, which sucked. But we got to watch Gettysburg all day, and that was pretty great. It made the day worth it. I think it was more worth it in hindsight than going to do whatever we were going to do. Plus, there were only like 5 or 6 of us there, and we just had a good day, and we watched a movie. It's a really long movie. It's like 3-4 hours long. The next is a little bit deeper. It is a book that I read the first year that I lived alone. It was just me and my dog. And I would read this every night before I went to sleep. It is Fernando Pessoa's The Book of Disquiet. So it is told in these very short little chapters. Some of them are only a sentence long, but it is about a man who lives in Portugal. Did he live in Lisbon? I believe in Lisbon. And it is just about his life, his very solitary, introverted, inward-focusing life, and his thoughts on his day-to-day life, on the future, on the past, on the people that he knows, and how he is basically a nobody living a forgettable life, and that he wants it that way. He doesn't want any social entanglements. He doesn't really want to be a part of life at all, and then he will pass into the great nothingness. And it's really hard to explain this book after, I guess it's been 6 years now since I read it. But I am really looking forward to it, and I'm also kind of wary of it because it is a beautifully written book. Yes, it's also something of a downer. I'll probably wait until summer or spring to read this, so I'm looking forward to it anyway, because it is worth a reread. It's very well written. It's very interesting. And the last one is a book that I have thought about maybe rereading as a read aloud on this channel. I don't know if I will do it. I'm a little bit wary of doing read alouds just because it's a serious commitment, and I don't want to get like halfway through the book and then abandon it or anything like that. This is a book from, I believe, 1907, and it is by William Hope Hodgson. It is The House on the Borderlands. This would be my 3rd or 4th reread of this book. This is a really interesting book and rather hard to explain. It is about an old man who lives he lives with his sister, and they live all by themselves in an old castle in Ireland, in like a valley with a river running through it. And they start to be harassed by these pig men with like spears and I think armor. And it is initially about their fight with these pig men, but it becomes so much more than that, into like this vast cosmic story. I don't even know how really to explain it, but the man somehow winds up seeing like the earth, the time pass, and seeing the infinite nature of the universe, and planets and suns come and go, and it is a wild ride. And this book is not free of, but it is less based on the antiquated writing that William Hope Hodgson was really fond of. So he died in, I believe, 1916. He had joined the British Navy, or no, he had been in the British Navy when he was younger. He was also a bodybuilder. When the Great War came around, he joined the infantry, and he died somewhere in France. I think maybe might have been on the Marne. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but this is a crazy story, and I really want to reread it. If anybody is actually interested in having me do a read aloud of The House on the Borderland, please let me know, because it would give me some motivation to do it. But it's very short chapters, so I could read a chapter in a very short period of time. Some of them are only 3 or 4 pages long. It is completely in the public domain, and it is an interesting read. It's not a very long book, and what I was trying to show you here is that the the pages are large, but the writing is also large. So I actually had this printed on demand about 14 years ago. So I've had that for 14. No, you know what? It might have been, I might have actually got this in 2009, now that I think about it. So 16 years ago. Yeah. Okay. So that is the stack of fiction that I want to reread in 2026. And I'm really looking forward to it. It is not an intensive reading stack. It's except for the Book of Disquiet, they're all pretty easy reads. And even the Book of Disquiet is a pretty easy read. It's just that it is rather dense and something that you don't want to rush through, something that it would be difficult to rush through, actually. So if I remember right, actually, about the Book of Disquiet, it wasn't published during Pessoa's lifetime. It was found in a trunk after his death and published posthumously also. So anyway, I want to thank you for joining me. Let me know what you think about these books, and I'll see you next time.